Hello and welcome to the first Friday video of the Writing from Life Winter Writing Challenge, a place where you'll find the week's prompts, insights and tasks to get you closer to having written about your life. So, first questions first. How did you get on with the tasks set on the 1st of June, on Tuesday? Did you get around to watching the videos suggested? And how did you go with writing your family tree? As I said on Tuesday, the videos are designed to make it easy to answer the first three questions, which are, why are you writing your life story? Now, obviously, if you've watched that video, you will know exactly why I am writing my life story. But as always, the question is, why are you writing your life story? Is that an answer you can give in one sentence, two sentences, and actually answer specifically when you're asked? If so, you are on track to get going. Okay, next question. When are you going to write? What is your writing routine going to be? This one I found quite an interesting one because I thought, since I basically have very few responsibilities as a house sitter at the moment, that I would have tons of time to write, and I could write whenever I wanted to. But then I realized this doesn't actually work that way because, well, firstly, at the weekends, I tend to have a fair few phone calls from people checking up on me and finding out how we're going and to let me know what they're up to. So weekends are basically out because they phone at any time, which means I don't have a set time, and I'm certainly not going to stop talking to the people who want to stay in touch. Then I thought, well, actually, my mornings are quite free. I could write in the morning. But then I've just realized that it's quite cold in the morning here, and whilst that's not a really good excuse, I have noticed that when I'm cold, I don't type as well. Plus, I'm not as eager to get things done. And although I've tried, I'm not particularly good at typing at the same speed as my head is going whilst I'm wearing my fingerless mittens. So mornings were out. Then I thought, well, how about late morning? But then I thought, oh no, because then, we often go out and I'll be thinking about lunch. And then I thought, well, what about after lunch? And then I thought, no, I tend to get tired after lunch. And of course, there are bits of work that I do for the website and my Skillshare courses and things like that, and I tend to do those in the afternoon. So what I've actually decided is, after crossing all these things off the list, despite the fact that I have very few responsibilities, the only time that I really have to write, that I can guarantee I will have to write, is 6:30 to 7:30, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So I have 3 hours set aside. Fingers crossed I keep with it. If I don't, I've actually promised myself that if I don't manage that time, I will find other hours during the week, which is not ideal, but as I said earlier, I'm not particularly good with routines. But I am going to try really hard on this one because, hey, you're out there and you're watching this and I'm going to feel guilty if I don't manage it. So I can't really tell people to stick to a routine if I can't stick to mine. So that is when I'm going to write. When are you going to write? Did you get your answer? Did you decide when? Have you got your set times? Do you need to tell other people in your life when you're writing? Do you need to alter events in your life so that you can stick to your routine? If you're lucky like me, then obviously there's very little I need to alter. But it's worth considering, and I did look into it to consider whether anything needs altering. I think the only thing that I'm going to be altering is making sure that we eat at 5:30. Then there was the third video of what format are you going to record your life story in? Are you going to write it on the computer? Are you going to write it by hand? Are you going to video record it? Are you going to talk into a recording device so that you only have the sound of your voice? Again, it's a personal choice, and again, it's pretty obvious. After years and years of typing, I'm going to be typing mine. I had thought about writing it by hand, but my typing is easier to read, even with the occasional spelling mistake, than my writing. Plus, of course, my family is scattered across the world. So if any of them should choose to want to read any, it would be quite difficult to send a journal or to update them on where my writing is. Whereas if it's in the form of a computer document in a file, well, that would be quite easy to email anybody who wanted to see it. So if you haven't found the time to look at those videos yet, I would strongly recommend it. And those videos, as I said earlier, are why, when, and how. All available on this channel, all easy to access. So there you go. Update number 1. Then, of course, there was the project, which was write down your family history, gaps and all. Just put the words on the page, write down the bits you know, in whatever format suits you. I was surprised with how easy I found this bit of the task. Although I have to admit there are many gaps with middle names and birthdays, actually, and marriages as well, and deaths. But I was amazed by how many bits actually came to mind as I filled it in. The major challenge I had, though, was actually trying to put it on the page in some way that looked half decent. For some reason, I had it fixed in my head that the best way for me to put it on the page was to type it on the page in a format that matched a traditional family tree, which would be wonderful if it works. But it's actually not that easy, because first off I started centering all the names and had them going out and then going down from there, and that would have looked great, except, some families weren't very considerate and they had different amounts of children, and then they got married different times, and so it wasn't symmetrical at all, and the tabbing that I'd used didn't work. So I didn't end up centering it. In the end, it's quite scruffy, and I put it on a landscape piece of paper on the computer, and I've written it in a vague form, but basically it comes down to each family branch is on a different sheet. So I couldn't put it all on one sheet because it got too fiddly and too big and too confusing. So it's all set over 5 sheets of paper, and that's with the gaps, but it's on the page. I think in hindsight I probably would have considered writing it in paragraphs had I thought further about it, or realised how tricky it would be to go for the standard family tree design. So then I would have had so-and-so was born here, so-and-so was born then, they met here, they had these children, this child then married this person and got married, this person then got married and had these children, and written it in paragraphs. It wouldn't be as visual, but it wouldn't have been as scruffy either. And at the moment I'm putting together some emails to send out to the rest of the family to say, can you answer these questions for me? This is as far as I got. Because of course I know birthdays and dates specific to my family. It's just the ones on the outside that I'm not sure of. So if I contact them, they probably know those bits, but don't know my bits. And maybe it's a case of swapping the information if they're in the process of writing their family tree. I know parts of my family already have a family tree, so I can actually pinch those bits and put them straight in. But again, it was a trickier task to create than I had expected, but the information is there, which is the main thing. And there is a good chance that I'll come back to it later and fill in the gaps and rewrite it and create it. But at this particular point, the task was not to have a perfect family tree written on the page. The task was to have as much information as I knew written on the page in some way that could be read or understood, or referred back to if I start writing stories about different people and people going, well, who's that person? I don't know that person. And who was that, your cousin? Was that your niece? I don't remember. So yes, that task is done. Well, half done. but almost done. Started. Well, what is the task for this week? Well, I had thought about giving a writing prompt, but then I thought, well, actually we would benefit from a bit more background work before we started writing, which made me think then that it would be better to approach it from a slightly different angle. If you're looking forward to writing a story or an anecdote about your life, then I would say definitely look at the writing prompt that comes out on YouTube, 10 a.m. Tassie time. But also consider this project as well, because one of the things that I hear quite regularly is the fact that when somebody else is looking at your life story and they're trying to piece it together, there are always gaps, there are always question marks, unless somebody has written their whole family, unless somebody has written their whole life story. There are always gaps. And they might not be big gaps, but there's still that challenge of which bit comes first. And I didn't know you worked there, and I didn't know you lived there. And when did you meet that person? So this week's challenge is to overcome that issue. And basically it involves writing a complete outline of your life. I'm not saying write your whole life story. That's the last thing I would suggest. What I am suggesting is consider it a kind of resume of your life. So don't include any description, don't include any stories in depth, don't include any everyday emotions. Just include an outline of your story. So I was born at this address on this date. I went to this primary school. I went to this high school. After school, I belonged to these clubs. When I left school, I went to work here, I went to work there, I lived here, I lived there. I met this person, I travelled here, I travelled there, I got married, I had these children. Like I say, just a basic outline of your whole life, from the moment you were born to today. Therefore, maybe your last line is, I am writing this because Elizabeth said I should. Either way, that doesn't... I can't really write that one. I'm writing this because I felt guilty and felt it was about time. The point is, write an outline about your life. Don't go into a lot of detail. You probably get it done within, I don't know, somewhere between 3 or 4 pages, maybe less, maybe more. It really depends on how much of an exciting life you've had and how much detail you choose to go into. But like I say, not a lot of description, not a lot of emotion, don't include any stories. Basically an outline of your life, a resume style outline. As I said, the reason for this is purely so that you have something set, some order of events. You might choose later to write stories that fit in, or you might find that the stories you write aren't really covered in what you've written in the outline. It doesn't matter. But it gives a guideline. It gives you some kind of timeline to work with. So there you go. That is the task for today, for Friday. And again, for those people who are saying, but I thought I was going to be writing stories about my life. Yes, you are. That's all part of it. And I would recommend, if you have the time, along with writing your timeline, to look at Tuesday's writing prompt. It comes out 10 a.m. Tassie time, and that is a regular post. So it is worth remembering, because that way you'll always have something to write about. So there you go. That is it. The task for this week is, if you haven't got round to watching the videos, I would strongly recommend doing that and answering the 3 questions. Then write a timeline. It all sounds quite simple, really, doesn't it? I have a feeling, though, that that one's going to surprise me as much as writing the family tree did. As always, if you have any comments, please put them in the comments section here. If you have any questions, post them on Facebook on Elizabeth's writing page, and we can all discuss them together there. Plus, of course, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and to make sure you're subscribed so that you get all the videos involved in this challenge. And of course, if you are enjoying this, if you are thinking that it's going to be exactly what you're looking for, feel free to share this link around your friends. Tell other people to come and join, because it doesn't matter when you start this challenge, because it's going to be here for a while. And I imagine that some people will be able to catch up if they choose to. Or alternatively, they can just follow on a week or two behind. Anyway, having said all that, giving you something to think about, have a fun week with your writing, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.